Chapter 1335, Never Give Up. As the barrier's energy was swallowed up by the black flames, someone in the Beijing pavilion finally couldn't hold it back and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, even though their faces were pale and their dantians were almost drained, they still held on desperately. Because they knew that if they backed off, their master's life would be threatened. Wei Jianqing's mouth also began to overflow with blood, but he gritted his teeth tightly and said solemnly, 15 minutes, at most 15 minutes, Xiu will be able to save his honor. We must hold on. In fact, Wei Jianqing didn't even know if Xiu's surgery would be successful or not, and when exactly his honor would come out. However, they all knew that they couldn't retreat. Even if they were going to die. Nangong Yu's eyes swept across the few people who were exhausted, and the black spiritual power was absorbed back into his fingertips. He was hesitating whether to use the dark spiritual power. Although if he could use the dark spiritual power to devour the endless black flame, this would expose his identity. By then, it would be troublesome for him to stay in the Miracle Healer Academy to protect Xier. Moreover, this would also lead to a series of troubles. Suddenly, Nangong Yu sensed something and looked back with a gentle and doting smile on his face. At the same time, someone finally couldn't hold it any longer and passed out. Xue Sha and his men let out a cheer and swarmed toward the opening of the barrier. Xue Sha laughed wildly, kill all these scums. Wei Jianqing and the others were full of despair. Now that their spiritual power was exhausted one by one, even if they wanted to forcibly dispel the seal in them, they could no longer do it. Are we really going to die here? Is his honor really doomed? Seeing that Xue Sha's long sword wrapped in black flames was about to hit them, Wei Jianqing and the others closed their eyes in despair. But the next moment, they felt a familiar aura coming toward them. If Xue Sha's black flames could devour everything, then this aura was the cold that froze everything, but the cold was mixed with vitality. The drained dantians of Wei Jianqing and others were fully replenished instantly. The meridians that were originally painful due to the exhaustion of spiritual power were also healed under the comfort of this spiritual power. Wei Jianqing suddenly opened his eyes and looked behind him in disbelief. Everyone who fell on the ground turned around, then they saw a man in a green robe and a crown on his head, slowly walking out of the palace. Wei Jianqing's eyes instantly became wet. He shouted in a hoarse voice, His Honor, are you healed? The sound of Wei Jianqing brought tears to the eyes of the 8 guardians of Venerable Huiyu. Yan Xiao, who had the most honest temperament, burst into tears on the spot, His Honor, it's great that you are still alive. Venerable Huiyu looked at their battered looks and the blood on their mouths, and his heart was filled with warmth and emotion. Although Dr. Min's betrayal disheartened him, these subordinates never left him when he was in the greatest danger. They even risked their lives to protect him. These people are the best. Chapter 1336, Die with No Corpse. A soft smile appeared on Venerable Huiyu's face. He glanced at Wei Jianqing and others one by one. When he finally looked at Xue Sha, who looked sluggish and panicked, the soft smile turned into tyrannical cold malice. Xue Sha's subordinates were even more shocked when they saw Venerable Huiyu. They all trembled with fright. Suddenly, someone screamed in surprise and fled. Immediately, someone followed frantically, no longer caring about any orders and missions. Venerable Huiyu sneered and waved his hand. An icy aura condensed into tens of millions of sharp blades and flew toward the fleeing people. Xue Sha originally wanted to escape, but when he saw this person, his feet seemed to be petrified and he couldn't move. There was an overwhelming fear in his heart. The next moment, he did see a scene that made him terrified and desperate. Those of his subordinates wanted to escape, but they couldn't, of course. Venerable Huiyu's sharp blades hit them mercilessly, but Xue Sha didn't hear their screams. What he heard were the crackling sounds as the subordinates were turned into ice sculptures in an instant. In just a second, those ice sculptures shattered and turned into little ice fragments, floating in air. Their souls and corpses were deleted. Xue Sha only felt that the blood all over her body was cold. He couldn't even utter a word. His rigid gaze fell on Venerable Huiyu's face. His face was radiant and no longer had the pain and depression tormented by the illness. What remained was the majesty and power of the superior. Venerable Huiyu, he is healed. No, it's not. He even becomes stronger than ever. Xue was completely despairing. He even felt that Venerable Yi couldn't match him at all. However, how is this possible? Venerable Huiyu's illness was sentenced to death in the Siam continent long ago. How could anyone be able to cure him? Xue retreated step by step. The hand behind his back secretly activated the random teleportation array, and he said with a trembling voice, Venerable Huiyu, I'm just here to visit you on the order of Venerable Yi. If you kill it, Venerable Yi will definitely know. I believe you don't want to directly go hostile with Venerable Yi so quickly, do you? As he kept talking, the teleportation array hidden behind his back also quickly activated. Feeling the energy spread from the teleportation talisman, Xue was overjoyed. His face showed a bit of a different expression. However, before Xue's smile spread in his eyes, Venerable Huiyu sneered and waved his hand lightly. The next moment, Xue had a terrified look on his face. His mouth was wide open, but before he could make a sound, his entire body had already burst open with a bang. There was not even a drop of blood. He was also turned into ice fragments. Everyone present was stunned by this scene. Xue was at least at the early stage of the soul-splitting stage, but Venerable Huiyu could exterminate him within a second. The most shocking and horrifying of all were definitely the golden masked man and others in the Mojing Pavilion. They thought they would wait for the news of Venerable Huiyu's death, but who knew that he actually recovered? Elder Fei's eyes were filled with fear and joy. He looked coldly at Xuyang, who had lost his soul, and sneered, President Liu, didn't you say that Venerable Huiyu will definitely die? Didn't you say that Xiyu's medical skills are just so-so? What's going on now? Venerable Huiyu has not only recovered, but his cultivation is a little higher than before. Chapter 1337, Unreasonable, that's what you guarantee there is absolutely no one better than your medical skills in the Miluo continent? Xuyang's face was pale. His eyes flashed with a cold light, and he stared straight at the young man who was following behind Venerable Huiyu in the distance. The young man standing there had a beautiful and unparalleled face. His expression was indifferent as if nothing could move him. Xuyang couldn't suppress the flame of jealousy growing in his body. He is only a boy of 17 years old, but he even cured a terminal illness that I thought could not be cured. Such a talent, such an ability, why don't they belong to me? The most unbearable thing for Xuyang was that the golden masked man and others who originally valued him and believed in him also looked at him gloomily at this time as if they were looking at a useless waste. The position that he had worked so hard to earn was completely ruined. Xuyang gritted his teeth with hatred, but he forced himself to endure it. He put up a lonely and guilty look as he said, I'm sorry to disappoint sir with my poor medical skills. But that Xiyu is young, it's impossible for him to have such superb medical skills. I wonder if he has some kind of treasure on him. The golden masked man's eyes flashed. His cold eyes swept over the young man behind Venerable Huiyu, then he frowned, now that kid is favored by Huiyu, we can't touch him. However, we must find a way to get him to our side. If he doesn't want to, destroy him completely. Elder Fei, who was standing on the side, quickly bowed after hearing the words, yes, sir. Having said that, Venerable Huiyu looked over with sarcasm and coldness. Even the golden masked man felt intimidated against Venerable Huiyu like this. But he wasn't afraid. Venerable Huiyu had an agreement with his master that he would never attack them in the lower realm. It's just that Venerable Huiyu has recovered and now knows the truth, so he definitely won't let it go. I should hurry back and report this. Thinking of this, the golden masked man waved his hand to set up the barrier that isolated the two pavilions. When Wei Jianqing and the others saw them leave, they immediately said angrily, His Honor, do you just let these guys go? Especially that Xuyang, he actually defected to their side and secretly harmed his honor. How can we allow such a scum to live? Venerable Huiyu sneered, don't worry, as long as I'm healed, how much time do you think they have?" When everyone heard this, they were overjoyed. Uncle Chiu looked at Venerable Huiyu with tears and said excitedly, "His Honor, are you really cured? Will your illness recur?" Venerable Huiyu smiled slightly and did not speak, but he looked at Hexi. Immediately afterward, everyone's eyes fell on Hexi. They stared at her with excitement and nervousness as if she didn't speak, they would open her mouth and dig the answer out of it. Hexi smiled slightly. There was no excitement on her face. "The surgery is a success. There are no sequelae." "Ray, really?" Yan Xiao was the first to shout. His rough voice carried a sobbing tone, "Shiyu." No, miracle healer Shi, you mean that His Honor will never be sick again? Will he live forever?" Hexi shrugged, "If he lives long enough, I think he can live forever." Chapter 1338. First, as soon as Hexi said this, everyone immediately cheered excitedly. Although they already knew the answer just now, they couldn't help but be ecstatic when it was confirmed at this moment. Uncle Chiu and the others even had red eyes and kept thanking Hexi. Yan Xiao shouted excitedly with his hoarse voice, "Ha ha ha, those scums were really so arrogant. Now it's good. Dare to plot against us. I will go and get rid of them when we return." Wei Jianqing suppressed his excitement and asked Venerable Huiyu, "His Honor, now that your illness has recovered, are we going back to the Siam continent?" Venerable Huiyu nodded with a contemptuous smile on his face, "Of course, we have to go back. Maybe I'm away for so long that they forget about my existence. Hee, it's time to go back and clean up the Divine Moon Palace." With a wave of his hand, Wei Jianqing and the others lit up with a dazzling light. Immediately afterward, Hexi was surprised to find that the aura of these people had changed. Their bodies naturally exuded a strong coercion. Even Hexi was always calm, she couldn't help but be slightly surprised. Each of the 8 Venerable Huiyu's guards has the strength of the soul-splitting stage. Wei Jianqing, who has the highest cultivation, is close to the intermediate stage of the soul-splitting stage. Such strength can completely dominate the entire Miluo continent. Wei Jianqing and others had even more surprises on their faces, and the depression that was originally suppressed by Xue Sha and others was instantly swept away. The 8 knelt down and kowtowed to Venerable Huiyu, "Thanks, His Honor." The other guards and servants in the Beijing pavilion shivered because of the sudden pressure. Their eyes revealed an instinctive fear. Even Wei Chengyuan had to force himself to calm down so that he wouldn't lose his manner. The only person in the audience who was not affected was probably Nan Gongyu. Since Xue Sha was eliminated, he once again restrained his aura and stood quietly behind Hexi. He would grab her soft little hand from time to time and play gently. Even if Wei Jianqing and others recovered their strength, no one was aware of his existence. Venerable Huiyu motioned for Wei Jianqing and others to get up, then he walked slowly to Hexi. His eyes swept around Nan Gongyu for a while before looking at Hexi again. "Shiyu, how can I thank you for your life-saving grace?" Hexi frowned slightly. She thought of Wu Qi in a coma. If I ask Venerable Huiyu to get back Wu Qi's wood vitality pearl or wood crystal, would it be feasible? Such thoughts swirled in her mind, but Hexi finally rejected them. Although Venerable Huiyu is very powerful, it is not something that Elder Fei and the others can compete with, but from Venerable Huiyu knowing that Lu Xuyang harmed him, but not being able to punish him at will, it seems that Elder Fei's side is not small. If I tell Venerable Huiyu about Wu Qi's situation, what if Venerable Huiyu wants to take Wu Qi away instead of saving him because he is a beastkin? Or even if Venerable Huiyu is willing to save him, the people on the side of Elder Fei will simply destroy Wu Qi's wood vitality pearl. At that time, Wu Qi is really beyond saving. Venerable Huiyu saw Hexi frowning and hesitating, and he smiled slightly. "Shiyu, if you haven't thought about it, I can owe you first. When you know what you want, let the principal of Miracle Healer Academy to inform me. As long as I receive the news, I will definitely do it for you." Chapter 1339, Siam Continent. Venerable Huiyu threw out a crystal clear, colorful, and smooth token as he spoke. The words, Huiyu, were engraved on the token. Just looking at it made people feel awe-inspiring. Hexi was slightly moved. Not to mention the meaning of the token itself seemed to be a rare treasure that Miluo continent could hardly see. Venerable Huiyu said, if one day, you come to Siam continent, as long as you take out this token, the people of Divine Moon Palace will unconditionally listen to your orders. Of course, once you use up this opportunity, the token will be taken back. Hexi nodded and smiled. She was very satisfied with the reward. However, what Hexi didn't see was that when the token entered the void, strands of strange white mist began to appear in the void of the Sumeru ring and wrap around the token. After a while, the white mist dissipated, and the token disappeared without a trace as if nothing had happened. This change happened so quickly that even the little ones playing in the ancient rhyme spiritual field didn't notice at all. The only strange thing was that after the token disappeared, the ninth secluded spirit spring seemed to increase in volume again, and the spring water became clearer. It seemed to exude a faint fragrance. Hexi, who was outside the void, didn't know at all that the reward she finally got disappeared in the blink of an eye. Venerable Huiyu looked at Wei Chengyuan with a faint smile, boy of the Wei family, I will remember your achievements. This time it is thanks to you. If you hadn't found Shiyu, I'm afraid, Venerable Huiyu said gratefully to Wei Chengyuan, but his demeanor was aloof. There was a hint of natural majesty and nobility. But Wei Chengyuan didn't mind. He even bowed his head a little flattered, his honor is giving me too much credit. It is a blessing to all of us that his honor can live well. Hexi raised her eyebrows slightly. Is this the innate sense of superiority that people from the upper realm have over people from the lower realm? She thought of the immortal Zijin in sealed dragon domain's secret territory, the little golden dragon and the carelessness of her master when playing with He Sha. All the people from the Siam continent had an arrogance imprinted in their bones toward the people from the Miluo continent. And the martial artists of the Miluo continent also had a natural yearning for the distant Siam continent. What kind of place is Siam continent? Under the order of Venerable Huiyu, Wei Jianqing praised the guards and servants in Beijing Pavilion one by one. Wei Jianqing gave the magic weapons of rank 7 and rank 8, and there were also many medicinal pills that everyone in Miluo continent was fighting for. In fact, these magic weapons and medicinal pills were useless to Wei Jianqing and the others. However, the guards and servants who got them burst into tears. Some even knelt down and kowtowed. Venerable Huiyu walked up to Hexi slowly, looking at her with a smile. It was just that there was no sense of superiority in this gaze, only the kindness of an elder. Little girl, in fact, I plan to take you back to Siam continent together after you cured my illness. When Venerable Huiyu said these words, he set up a barrier around he and Hexi, so the others could not hear their conversation. But this did not include Nan Gongyu. Nan Gongyu frowned almost immediately, and a cold chill flickered in his eyes. Chapter 1340, Magical Beast Forest Trip. This man called Sheer little girl, and he said he wanted to take Sheer away. Venerable Huiyu turned his eyes on Nan Gongyu at the right time. He smiled slightly, however, when I see him, I know that you will not follow me, and I don't need me to take you to Siam continent. Nan Gongyu sneered, that depends on whether you have the ability to take her away. Venerable Huiyu heard the words, but instead of being angry, he laughed out loud. After laughing for a while, his expression became solemn and his eyes looked complicated. I seem to feel a powerful spiritual aura from you, but, Hexi and Nan Gongyu glanced at each other, and they both saw doubts in each other's eyes. Hexi hurriedly asked, but what? A trace of solemnity and fear flashed in Venerable Huiyu's eyes, then he shook her head as if he wanted to shake off the strange thoughts. He said with a half-smile, little girl, you have a good eye for picking man. However, before you choose to marry this man, you should think about how to remove the cold poison in his body. After finishing speaking, without waiting for Hexi's reaction, he waved to Wei Jianqing and others. As Wei Jianqing and others stood beside Venerable Huiyu formed a gesture with both hands, then a huge teleportation array appeared around them. With a flash of white light, Venerable Huiyu and others disappeared on the spot. At the same time, those powerful and dark auras in the Mojing Pavilion also disappeared. In the Dean Room of Miracle Healer Academy, Jean Licheng was holding the inscribed jade slip in his hand, pacing back and forth restlessly. Jean Licheng had been the Dean of Miracle Healer Academy for more than 20 years. During this period, he had experienced countless ups and downs, but this was the first time he had the idea of resigning. Deputy Dean Xuyang at the side was also affected by Jean Licheng's uneasiness. He asked nervously, "Dean, what happened really?" Jean Licheng stopped and looked at his friend, Deputy Dean Xuyang, on the opposite with a hesitant expression. At this moment, a manservant's report suddenly came from outside the door. "Dean, Doctors Association President Lu and several elders are asking to see you." Jean Licheng's expression froze, he frowned even tighter, and a gleam of coldness flashed across his eyes. He took a deep breath and said to the manservant, "Let them in." When Deputy Dean Xuyang heard President Lu's name, he looked shocked. "I heard that President Lu was ordered to be killed by Venerable Huiyu. How could he still have the guts to come to Miracle Healer Academy?" Jean Licheng sneered and said, "Because he knows that Venerable Huiyu is busy dealing with the Dark Knight clan now, and he has Golden Wolf backing him up, so no one in the Miracle Healer Academy dares to touch him now." Deputy Dean Xuyang frowned and said, "Isn't he afraid that Venerable Huiyu will free up his matters and settle accounts with him?" Before Jean Licheng could answer, there was a knock on the door of the room, and then a middle-aged man came into the room with several old men who were over 100 years old. This middle-aged scribe was naturally Lu Xuyang. As soon as he entered Dean's room, he immediately bowed Jean Licheng with an indescribably graceful and humble manner, but there was an unconcealable arrogance in his eyes. "Dean Jean, long time no see." Jean Licheng said indifferently, "President Lu won't come here if there is nothing important. What's more, I heard that President Lu just ran away from Miracle Healer Academy in a hurry a few days ago, so why are you here again?" Lu Xuyang didn't look annoyed being ridiculed. He just smiled. "I'm here by the order of Sir Golden Wolf to ask Dean about the arrangement of the trip to the Magical Beast Forest." Chapter 1341, Must Die. After Jean Licheng heard the words, he said in a rage, "Lu Xuyang, are you all crazy? Magical Beast Forest? Even if the martial artists at the nascent soul stage enter, they will also face life danger. Now you actually want those students in the academy to hunt the magical beasts? Are you trying to kill all the students in the academy?" Lu Xuyang's expression was still indifferent and his smile was gentle, but it also looked extremely cruel. "Dean Jean is really funny. The Miracle Healer Academy was established by Lord and the others. These students may also be sent to Siam continent in the future. Why would Lord kill them? It's just..." Lu Xuyang paused, and the gentleness on his face turned into sarcasm. "The Lord is tolerant. He created the Miracle Healer Academy to train them, but it doesn't mean that they can be lazy and incompetent, and don't want to pay back. This time, Lord needs a lot of Beastkin Cubs to improve his strength. It's time to temper these students and let them serve Lord." Jean Licheng burst into flames and said angrily, "Even if you want Beastkin Cubs, you can let the elders of the academy go. Why do you want to put the students of the academy in danger? Why don't you elders of the Doctors Association go?" Lu Xuyang raised his eyebrows and said with a leisurely smile, "Who said the elders of our Doctors Association won't go? The elders behind me will follow the students and elders of Miracle Healer Academy to the Magical Beast Forest. Since Dean is worried that all the students in the academy will die, I have an idea." Lu Xuyang smiled and said slowly, "Each branch will send half of the students to the Magical Beast Forest to hunt for Beastkin. The branches' deans and elders, except for those who must stay behind, everyone else will go together. In this way, the safety of the students can always be guaranteed, right?" Jean Licheng also wanted to refute, "But we don't have a map of the Magical Beast Forest, and we don't know the depth of it." Before Jean Licheng finished speaking, he was interrupted by the cold-faced Lu Xuyang. This time, there was no smile on his face. "Dean Jean, don't forget, my daughter Xixi is also going to the Magical Beast Forest. Am I going to hurt my daughter? If Jean Dean is still unwilling to agree to this, then I can only report to Sir Golden Wolf. At that time, let alone whether Dean Jin's position can be maintained, how many of those branch deans can remain? And what will happen to your son in Siam continent? Dean Jin better think about it." Jean Liqing's face turned green and pale for a while, but in the end, he could only compromise. He said resentfully, I will post a notice for students above the intermediate stage of the gold core stage to go. Letting the students below the gold core stage go to the magical beast forest will only kill them. Xuyang didn't disagree, but his eyes flashed with malicious intent. He said with a faint smile, oh, right, I remember that there is a student named Xiyu in the Huang medical branch. Although he is only at the foundation establishment stage, his real strength can even defeat the intermediate stage of the gold core stage. And I heard that Xiyu's medical skills are also superb. Other students below the gold core stage can be spared, but this Xiyu, I think he must go, right? Jean Liqing's eyebrows twitched. He smelled a conspiracy from Xuyang's words. However, Xuyang's words were well-founded, so he couldn't refute it and could only bitterly agree. A satisfied smile appeared on Xuyang's face, and a gloomy light flashed across his eyes. That young man whose talent and luck are thousands of times better than mine, so he must die. Chapter 1342, Fight. At this time, Hexi was also very depressed. As Venerable Huiyu left, the people in the Mojing Pavilion also disappeared without a trace in an instant. Shi and Nangongyu searched the Mojing Pavilion upside down, but they couldn't find anything useful, let alone wood vitality pearl or wood crystal. If the wood vitality pearl belonging to Wu Qi cannot be found, it meant that Wu Qi couldn't be recovered. Even if Hexi's medical skills were superb, she was a little helpless in this situation. Seeing Shaoli suppressing her sadness and smiling to her, but she turned his back to secretly wipe away her tears, Hexi felt so sorry for the little fox. There was another thing that made her depressed. Hexi remembered throwing the jade token given by Venerable Huiyu into the void. However, after she searched the entire void, she couldn't find any trace of the jade token. Even Little Egg and the others don't see it. This is really strange. Nangongyu was very happy. Thinking of the old man who recognized Shier's identity as a woman and wanted to take Shier away, Nangongyu was very upset. He didn't want Shier to go to that old man again in the future. Now that the jade token was lost, it really suited his heart. As for the possibility that Shier would seek Venerable Huiyu for help in the future, Nangongyu crossed this possibility without hesitation. As long as he was by Shier's side, Shier didn't need to ask for help from anyone. She just had to rely on him. Of course, Nangongyu thought so in his heart, but he didn't show it on the surface. Instead, he comforted Hexi gently. When they returned to the dormitory from the Mojing Pavilion again, they saw Xianmu's cold face. Xianmu had disappeared since he was cured by Hexi that day. Hexi had long been accustomed to the disappearance of this roommate from time to time, so she didn't care at all. But Nangongyu has always been brooding over this matter, thinking that this person absolutely didn't have kind intention towards Shier. So for Shier's safety, he relied on his strong strength to avoid being discovered and stay in the Huang No. 1 dormitory. Hexi was not surprised to see Xianmu. She examined him up and down, then he nodded and said, "It seems that you have fully recovered." Xianmu nodded, but he looked at Nangongyu with cold eyes. "You, get out." Nangongyu's eyes were piercing. He raised his eyebrows and sneered, "Who are you? You dare to order me?" Xianmu's expression was still cold, but his aura suddenly rose. "This is the dormitory of Xiyu and I. You are not qualified." The aura erupting from Xianmu's body was extremely terrifying, shaking everything in the entire dormitory slightly. Tong Bing, who rushed over, was caught by this aura and fell to the ground with a terrified expression. Nangongyu seemed unaware of this. He also exuded the same fierce aura. He said with killing intent, "Whether I'm qualified or not, it is not up to you. If I kill you, I'm qualified, right?" As soon as he said, they moved at the same time. Lights were intertwining in the dormitory, and the bed that Hexi had just found a manager to repair was crumbling again. The herbs on the shelf also fell off. Tong Bing ran over in a panic, grabbed Hexi's hand and shouted, "Brother Xiyu, why did they fight? Brother Xianmu's injury has just healed, will he get hurt again?" Can you tell them to stop? Chapter 1343, Satiefied. Hexi looked impatiently at the two who were going to destroy the dormitory, and she said coldly, if you want to fight, fight outside. Whoever destroys the things in the dormitory will pay 10 times the compensation. Also, if you like to demolish the house so much, then all of you should sleep in the yard at night. As soon as Hexi finished speaking, the two people who had been fighting quickly separated. They glared at each other. There seemed to be sparks between them. Nangongyu said coldly, go out. Xianmu accepted the challenge without hesitation, go. As soon as the words fell, they had disappeared from the dormitory. Tong Bing was dumbfounded for a moment. He looked at Hexi with a face full of disbelief. Brother Xiyu, didn't I tell you to stop them? Why did you let them fight outside? Don't you worry that brother Xianmu will get hurt? Hexi closed his eyes and entered into a cross-legged state. Hearing the words, he said indifferently, don't worry, they won't die. Even if they are half dead, I can still save them. After finishing speaking, Hexi no longer cared about Tong Bing and quickly entered the state of meditation. For some reason, recently, she always felt that her stagnant cultivation was slowly advancing again. She seemed to be closer and closer to the real gold core stage. Hexi even felt that there was only a thin film separating her from the gold core stage, but she couldn't find a way to pierce the thin film for a while. Tong Bing watched Hexi indifferently closing her eyes and meditating, feeling only a burst of disappointment in his mind. He hurried to the door, staring at the dark night sky bewilderedly, looking forward to Xianmu's safe return. How can Xiyu be so heartless? Xianmu is his friend, but Xiyu doesn't care about Xianmu's life at all. Even a bed in the dormitory is more important than Xianmu in Xiyu's eyes. Xiyu had already treated Xianmu so indifferently, why does Xianmu still treat Xiyu so well? Time passed second by second, and the night was getting darker and darker. Tong Bing's feet were getting more and more numb. He had been standing here for almost 2 hours. Suddenly, Hexi on the bed opened her eyes, staring at the front and slowly restraining the aura around her. The next moment, 2 figures suddenly appeared in the room. Seeing the two who had left for 2 hours, Hexi couldn't help laughing out loud. It was the first time she saw Nangongyu in such a mess. Although he wore a mask, even the mask couldn't hide the injuries on his face and hands. Even his clothes became tattered, revealing his half-naked chest and the tiny wounds inside. Compared with Nangongyu, Xianmu's situation was not much better. Not only was his face bruised, his forehead was also bruised. His clothes were also torn, and there was a smell of blood. He was in such a mess as if he had just been beaten up. Hexi clenched a fist and pressed it to her lips to cough lightly to hold back a laugh, then she jumped off the bed and asked loudly, how? You two satisfied? Neither of them spoke. Nangongyu hugged Hexi in his arms smoothly, bowed his head and kissed her on the cheek, then he smiled provocatively at Xianmu. Chapter 1344, Let me see. Xianmu looked at him with a cold gaze. He took out the medicine and applied by himself. Hexi unexpectedly found that the relationship between them seemed to be a little better than before. If the atmosphere was tense before they went out to fight, then, apart from still being hostile, they seemed to have appreciated each other a little more. Hexi smiled. She took out 2 porcelain bottles and threw them to Nangongyu and Xianmu respectively. The external injury medicine in this porcelain bottle was refined with 9th secluded spirit spring. There was no external injury medicine in Miluo continent that was more effective than this. At this moment, Tong Bing, who was waiting at the door, finally came to his senses and realized that Xianmu had returned. Brother Xianmu, you're injured. Tong Bing's eyes turned red. He felt his heart was being tightened, so he hurriedly rushed towards Xianmu. Oh my God, so many injuries. How? How could he be so cruel? How could he beat you like this? Xianmu frowned in disgust. He waved and threw Tong Bing out of the dormitory. When Tong Bing fell to the ground, he was dumbfounded. He wiped away his tears and rushed toward the dormitory. However, when he reached the door, he found that he was blocked by a powerful force. He could see the scene inside, but he couldn't get in. Tong Bing was going crazy. He hit the door frame and shouted loudly, "Brother Xianmu, let me see your injury. Please let me in. Brother Shiyu, please let me in." Wu, however, Tong Bing didn't know that his voice had been isolated. No matter how loud he yelled, Xianmu and Shiyu couldn't hear him. Nangongyu withdrew his cold eyes from the crying young man at the door, and a dark light flashed in his eyes. This young man who lived with Sheer looked very weak and useless, but when Nangongyu looked at him, he felt an ominous feeling in his heart. His existence will seem to bring disaster to Hexi one day. However, he is just a weakling like an ant. How could he threaten Sheer? Nangongyu was in a trance that when he applied the medicine, he accidentally tore his wound. The wound that had already stopped bleeding instantly bled profusely. Hexi's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't sit still any longer. She grabbed the medicine bottle in his hand and complained, "Why are you so careless? You can't even apply the medicine." As Hexi spoke, she took out a cotton cloth, dipped it in spirit spring water and gently wiped off the blood on Nangongyu's wound. When she saw the hideous flesh, she couldn't help frowning and blowing gently before sprinkling the external injury medicine on it. Nangongyu felt the girl's slender and soft fingers and the warm breath with a delicate fragrance on his skin. His whole body became hot. There was a gentle smile in his eyes. The happiness almost overflowed from his eyes. Sure enough, my Sheer still cares about me the most. What Xianmu, what little white face, they can't be compared with me at all. However, Nangongyu still put on an aggrieved expression on his face as if he was holding back the pain and said, "Sheer, it's okay, I'll do it myself. It was just because the wound on my back was painful, that's why I accidentally, the injury on your back is very painful." Hexi felt even more distressed and worried when she heard it. She quickly got up and said, "Let me take a look." The girl's face was full of worry and tension as if he was the only one left in the whole world. Chapter 1345, Tong Bing's resentment. Nangongyu smiled even more, and he still did not forget to show off to Xianmu provocatively. Xianmu snorted and wanted to ignore it, but he was really upset when he watched Shiyu carefully heal Nangongyu as if she had forgotten his own existence. For Nangongyu, he was disdainful and disgusted at the beginning. How could he put a lower realm martial artist into his eye? However, after they fought, they inexplicably appreciated each other. Xianmu had been in Miluo continent for so many years, and he had long forgotten what it was like to have a hearty fight with someone. But in today's match with Nangongyu, both of them were content in the fight, which also made Xianmu have a little admiration for Nangongyu. He grew up in Siam continent. Being able to achieve the current level of cultivation was already genius among the geniuses. And this man, whose age was younger than him, could have such strength. Even Xianmu couldn't help but look at him differently. As a result, he couldn't beat Nangongyu to death and couldn't chase him away. He also felt very annoyed seeing him here. Xianmu could only snort, picked up the external injury medicine Hexi gave him and walked out of the dormitory with a cold face. "Brother Xianmu." Tong Bing cried out in surprise when he saw Xianmu coming out. He rushed over. Later, Tong Bing saw the loneliness on Xianmu's face. He looked inside and saw that Hexi was treating her servant's injury intimately. Tong Bing suddenly realized something, and he quickly stepped forward and grabbed Xianmu's sleeve, begging, "Brother Xianmu, you are injured. If Shiyu doesn't apply the medicine for you, I will help you apply the medicine, okay? Whatever you want me to do, I'm willing to do it." Xianmu turned to look at him. Tong Bing only felt that his heart was about to pop out of his chest. He looked obsessively at the man in front of him with scorching eyes. The disgust in Xianmu's eyes was even more. He said coldly in a flat voice, "If Shiyu hadn't taken you in, you would have died 10,000 times already. Get lost." After speaking, his figure flickered and disappeared in place. Tong Bing's blood seemed to turn from boiling to freezing all of a sudden. He stood there blankly for a long time. Finally, he couldn't hold back the tears. Tong Bing stood for a long time, then he looked into the dormitory. The lights in the dormitory were warm and bright. Xiyu and her lover were cuddling each other as if there was no gap between them. However, such intimacy was gouging Xian Mu's heart. Tong Bing remembered that on the night when the Mojing Pavilion was stolen, he clearly saw Xiyu running to Xian Mu's bed, and she was still intimately close to him. Why? Why did Xiyu hook up with another man after only a few days? Doesn't Xiyu know that brother Xian Mu will be sad if he does this? Or, is Xiyu good at playing people's minds? What about me? I'm so kind and dedicated to brother Xian Mu, but brother Xian Mu doesn't even bat an eye on me. Even allowing me to live in Huang No. 1 dormitory is because of Xiyu. Just because of this flirtatious Xiyu. Tong Bing thought of Xian Mu's last words, and the pain and sorrow in his eyes finally turned into a vague resentment. He was crying in a dark corner. Looking at Xiyu, who was smiling softly and sweetly under the light of the crystal stone, his mumbled, "Xiyu, it would be great if you disappear. Then, this place will belong to me and brother Xian Mu, and brother Xian Mu will not be sad anymore." Chapter 1346, Hexi's worry in the dormitory. Nan Gongyu felt the fiery and sinister gaze, then he turned his head. But there was only darkness in his eyes, and no figure was seen. As his divine sense spread, apart from Hexi and him in the entire dormitory, only the weakling boy curled up in his room and cried pitifully. Nan Gongyu frowned. Am I really overthinking? After treating Nan Gongyu's last wound, Hexi looked at his body covered with bandages and said with a frown, Nan Gongyu, it's almost 1 year. Nan Gongyu was taken aback for a moment, then he immediately showed a wicked smile, hugged the girl into his arms, and whispered in her ear, yes, if Xi'er didn't say it, I almost forgot about it. Unknowingly, we have known each other for almost a year, but Xi'er, you have not become my wife. TSK, it seems that my efficiency is really too low. Hexi was originally full of sadness, but she was amused by his words. With a wave of her hand, the door of the dormitory closed immediately. Purple abyss vine began to spread in her own dormitory, isolating the outside world and the inner room. Hexi tapped his chest and said seriously, be serious, you know what I'm telling you. Nan Gongyu grabbed her hand, leaned close to kiss her lips, and bit her jade-like finger, then he said with burning eyes, what else is more serious than Xiu marrying me? Hexi felt that she was about to be defeated by this shameless man, so she pushed away his face in disgust, wiped her wet finger on her shirt and said, your sickness is about to trigger soon, but I don't know if the treatment last time will still be useful. Thinking of this, Hexi felt a little depressed. She had cured so many people. Even Venerable Huiyu, who suffered from epilepsy and a brain tumor, could be treated successfully through surgery. But for Nan Gongyu's illness, she was still helpless. During this year, Hexi also kept checking Nan Gongyu's body. But she was shocked to find that the cold poison in Nan Gongyu's body seemed to be alive. It memorized her own treatment plan and developed antibodies naturally. In other words, if Nan Gongyu got sick again this year, the treatment method she used last year might not have the same effect. Similarly, although Nan Gongyu suppressed the cold poison with the blazing sun heavenly flame in the flame cave every year, the cold poison in his body had become more and more resistant to the blazing sun heavenly flame. It was very likely that in another year or two, or even less than a year, Nan Gongyu would suffer serious injury in the next trigger. Nan Gongyu saw that the girl in his arms was frowning worriedly. He couldn't help hugging her and kissing. Don't worry, I still want to marry you. How can I die so easily? Hexi stretched out her hands and hugged him tightly. The uneasiness and fear in her heart gradually calmed down in the embrace. A year ago, she treated Nan Gongyu's injury just to pay off the debt. But now, as long as she thought about losing this man, she would feel the heart-wrenching pain. Jade Fire Toad, is there any news yet? With the Jade Fire Toad, even if there is no way to completely eradicate the cold poison, Hexi was confident that it would be able to suppress the cold poison for at least 10 years. Chapter 1347, notice Nangongyu hugged her even tighter as if he wanted to integrate her into his flesh and blood. Sheer, how can I die? If I'm dead, how can I protect you? How can I keep you by my side forever? Half of the people from each branch go to the magical beast forest to hunt beastkin? Hexi looked up in surprise, showing an expression of disbelief. Are you sure it's not the secret realm? It's not the Sun-Moon Mountain Range? But the magical beast forest? Jin Ziyu nodded solemnly. This morning, this notice was sent to the entire college. Every branch is no exception, even including the elite Heaven Medical Branch. The elite Heaven Medical Branch referred to Lu Zixi and others who stood at the top of the entire Miracle Healer Academy. In order to allow them to grow and develop better, they were all taught by the elders alone. The resources they got were not comparable to ordinary students. Hexi frowned and said, apart from the students from the academy, is there anyone else going with me? Jin Ziyu nodded and said, the elders of Miracle Healer Academy, including most of the branch deans, will go. The Doctors Association will also send many doctors with advanced cultivation and superb medical skills. I also heard that some aristocratic families also send some elders to accompany them. Hexi tapped the table lightly. Qian Dazhuang, who was standing behind Jin Ziyu, shouted excitedly, what are you afraid of? Isn't it just a magical beast forest? With Shiyu here, and boss has advanced to the gold core stage, even if it is a dragon's den, we can still venture in. Jin Ziyu glared at him and said in a deep voice, Dazhuang, don't talk nonsense. You don't understand the horror of the magical beast forest at all. Not to mention us students, even the elders in the academy dare not to go deep. Chen Xiaofeng also nodded and said, I have heard that in the deepest part of the magical beast forest, the beastkin level there has already exceeded rank 10. It is almost a godlike existence. Its cultivation level is even more terrifying than the soul-splitting stage. If we really come across such a beastkin, even if our entire Miracle Healer Academy students are added up, we won't be able to stop the random attack of the opponent. Qian Dazhuang and the others were frightened at once, and they were speechless for a while. Hexi glanced at Nangongyu, received his deep gaze, paused and said, you don't have to worry too much. Everyone knows the danger of the magical beast forest. Since the academy let us hunt beastkin cubs, then it means that we don't need to go deep into the magical beast forest. We only need to hunt in the peripheral areas. That way the danger will be much lower. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief when they heard the words. Since Shiyu said there was no need to worry, then there must be no need to worry. Those of Huang Medical Branch already had a deep instinctive trust in Hexi. You go to the square to gather first, I will come over in a while. Seeing that everyone went out, Jin Ziyu stayed behind. Jin Ziyu's current injury had been completely healed by Hexi. After a period of training and taking medicinal pills, his cultivation had broken through the gold core stage. He was about to reach the peak of his original cultivation. Jin Ziyu had always been a restrained person who talked with his actions, but from the moment he recovered from his injury, he had completely regarded Shiyu as his master. He swore to be loyal to her for the rest of his life. Chapter 1348, What did you see? Seeing him staying, Hexi's heart moved slightly. She already guessed what he was going to say. Jin Ziyu said, Shiyu, there is something I want to tell you alone. Hexi raised his eyebrows and said, is it about the reason you were injured that year? Jin Ziyu nodded, then he looked at Nangongyu who was sitting next to Shiyu. Seeing this, his heart couldn't help beating violently. They had been in this room for a long time, and this man was standing beside Shiyu. But none of them noticed his existence. Even up to this moment, he wanted to tell Shiyu the secret alone, but the moment before he spoke, he almost ignored that there was this strange man by her side. Seeing Jin Ziyu looking at Nangongyu, Hexi understood. She said calmly, it's fine. He is my people, so just say what you have to say. Nangongyu, who was labeled as her own people, felt very delighted. He grabbed Hexi's little hand and squeezed it gently. Seeing that Shiyu said so, Jin Ziyu no longer hesitated. Finally, he revealed the secret that had been hidden in his heart for several years. A few years ago, Xuyang just became the president of the Academy Student Council. He had outstanding talent at a young age, and he had been favored by many elders and deans. He always wanted to make the academy better. He even kept fantasizing about the days when he was chosen to enter the Siam continent. When Xuyang talked about this past, his expression was very calm as if he was telling someone else's story. Because I was the president of the Academy Student Council, I was able to freely enter and leave most places in the academy, including many forbidden places today. One night, when I was cultivating on the back mountain, I saw a lot of strange men in black entering the direction of the current Beijing pavilion. At that time, I was very curious and young, so I followed behind them. When Xuyang said this, he showed obvious fear and horror on his face. Hexi asked, "What did you see?" "I saw a person who should not have appeared in Miracle Healer Academy." Xuyang's voice was hoarse, trying to suppress the trembling. That was a candidate who took the academy assessment in the same year as me, but, in the first round after the spiritual root test, he disappeared. And all of us thought he was too sad to be eliminated, so he went home. Hexi's breathing was stagnant, and her eyes widened slightly. Xuyang's words made her think of something. Xuyang continued, "Besides the examinee I knew, there was also a beastkin who was unconscious beside him. I saw an old man with a white beard put them on an altar and kept channeling the array. Then the examinee and the beastkin showed painful expressions. Finally a light green crystal stone condensed from the beastkin's body." Hexi and Nangongyu looked at each other, and they each saw the surprise in each other's eyes. It turns out that the extraction of wood vitality pearl started so many years ago, so how many beastkins did they kill in order to extract wood vitality pearl? How many spiritual root martial artists were captured? Xuyang took a deep breath, clasped his hands tightly on the chair, and said in a hoarse voice, "Seeing beastkin roaring in pain and the candidate who was at the same age as me was also half dead, I felt uneasy and wanted to escape. Who knows, I saw a person at that moment." Without waiting for Hexi to ask, Xuyang continued, "It's the president of the Doctors Association, Xuyang." Chapter 1349. Strange Xuyang. Hexi frowned and said slowly, "Xuyang?" Xuyang nodded. Xuyang checked that candidate and said, "This person has no wood spiritual power on him, so he is already useless." After that, he grabbed the examinee's dantian, then he was turned into an old and ugly mummy in an instant. Hexi didn't respond yet, but Nangongyu immediately looked serious, grabbed Hexi's hand, and said in a deep voice, "Are you sure he turned the examinee into a mummy instead of just poaching his dantian?" Xuyang closed his eyes, suppressed the fear in his mind and said, "I will never forget the scene I saw with my own eyes. At that time, my heart was full of fear, but I didn't dare to move at all. Then I heard the white-bearded old man say to Xuyang, 'It seems that among all the people with wood spiritual root, only President Lu is the most powerful. Not only are you not dead after your wood spiritual root got extracted, but you even devour the beastkin's vitality in the processing of condensing yuan crystal. Now you even have the ability to detect spiritual roots and devour people's cultivation. This is a blessing in disguise, even I'm jealous of you.'" As soon as Xuyang said this, Nangongyu's expression changed. His hand holding around Hexi's tightened slightly, and a trace of panic flashed in his eyes as if he was afraid that someone else would take her away. Hexi was also shocked. She didn't expect that Xuyang was also the one whose wood spiritual root got extracted. However, Xuyang not only didn't die of wood spiritual root extraction, but he also devoured the beastkin vitality. Moreover, he now had the ability to devour other people's cultivation and detect the spiritual root. What was even more frightening was that Xuyang should hate Elder Fei and the group because of this, but now he was able to serve them wholeheartedly. For the first time, Hexi felt real fear of a person. This Xuyang's scheming and ruthlessness really moved her. Hexi took a deep breath, suppressed the shock in her heart and looked at Xuyang. "Did you escape that night?" Xuyang nodded, then he shook his head bitterly. "I escaped, but you can also say I didn't. At that time, I didn't dare to move at all. I kept watching them use that bloody and cruel array to extract the wood's spiritual root. Martial artists and beastkins one by one to ge the light green crystal stones or beads. Until the last beastkin, that beastkin was very strong. He suddenly woke up and blew himself up while being extracted. Xuyang and the others panicked for a while, and I took the opportunity to escape. Hexi raised her eyebrows. Since you escaped, there was a painful look in Jin Ziyu's eyes. When the beastkin exploded, a green bead splashed on my body, and I took that bead away before I had time to think about it. It was because of the pearl that Xuyang discovered my whereabouts that night. He seemed to have a way to find the trace of this peel. Although I kept it inside a jade box that can isolate divine sense, but Xuyang still discovered the aura on me. With that said, Jin Ziyu took out a jade box from the storage bag and opened it. Hexi saw a crystal-clear emerald green bead inside. As soon as she held the bead in her hand, she felt a powerful vitality rush toward her. Jin Ziyu said, I kept this bead all the time, hoping to expose Xuyang's conspiracy one day, but now it seems that I can't do it myself. Chapter 1350. Lu family's father and daughter. Hexi squinted and said, Can you give this to me? Of course. Jin Ziyu was stunned for a moment, then he immediately said, It's just that Shiyu, if you are contaminated with the aura of this bead, you will be easily discovered by Xuyang. I'm afraid it will bring you trouble. Hexi sneered, Even if I don't have the wood vitality pearl, the father and daughter will still come to trouble me. Only then did Jin Ziyu heave a sigh of relief, then a gleam of hope appeared in his eyes. In this life, it is impossible for me to fight against Xuyang and his daughter, let alone revenge, but maybe. You can. Maybe, I can wait until the day when I see the death of my enemy. Hexi put the wood vitality pearl into the void and looked at Jin Ziyu again. After Xuyang found out about you, he didn't kill you? Jin Ziyu shook his head with a wry smile, and his eyes were filled with deep hatred. He can't confirm that I broke into the forbidden area that day, and the Deans had always regarded me highly, so he dared not hurt me openly. But he let people stab me in the back when I was on a mission. When I came back from the heaven-level mission, half of my brothers were dead, and my cultivation had almost completely gone. I was kicked out of Heaven Medical Branch by him, but just like this, the Lu family father and daughter still refused to let me go. They asked the doctors to give me an addictive drug, which poisoned and killed me bit by bit. If I didn't encounter you, Shiyu, I'm afraid I would be dead in less than half a year. Jin Ziyu's voice was hoarse and distorted with anger and pain. He stood up suddenly, knelt down on one knee, bowed toward Hexi and said, Shiyu, I said that as long as you cure me, you will be my master. From now on, no matter what you ask me to do, I, Jin Ziyu, will never frown. However, if one day you deal with Lu Zhishi and Xuyang, please give me a chance to let them taste the pain I have suffered. It was Lu Zhishi who framed you. Jin Ziyu sneered and said, She always looks like a lofty goddess as if her hands are never stained with blood, but I know that everything I suffered was manipulated by her behind the scenes. Don't mention me, she could even give up and trample Kai Yu who was devoted to her. From this, you know how vicious and ruthless she is. Shiyu, you must be careful of her. She wants to kill you not once or twice. This time going to the magical beast forest is the best opportunity. I don't believe that she will not take this opportunity to attack you. Nangong Yu's eyes turned cold, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. When I was not around, someone tried to put Sheer to death again and again. Lu Zhishi. Is she tired of living? After Jin Ziyu told the secrets of the year, he went to the square. However, Nangong Yu grabbed Hexi and stroked her cheek with one hand. His voice was gentle, but his expression was extremely dignified. Sheer, Xuyang's ability to devour Beastkin's vitality is terrifying. Remember, you must be careful with him. You absolutely must not use any with spiritual power around him. Hexi frowned and said, Is there really anyone who can devour the vitality of a beastkin? If they could devour the vitality of a beastkin, wouldn't many people do that? After all, the vitality of a beastkin is so powerful and it can be transformed into different abilities. Chapter 1351, Narrow Escape. Nangongyu sneered and said with deep eyes, "You think it is so easy to devour the vitality of beastkin? Beastkin's vitality and soul are stronger than humans. Even if humans are 4 levels higher than beastkins, they may not be able to swallow it. If they do it by force, it will only destroy their bodies. Otherwise, with the greed of many people, how can they not covet such benefits? Unless what? Unless that beastkin trusts this person very much, and it even has the good intention of using its own vitality to heal the person's wounds and maintain his life at the beginning. At this time, if this person tries to ruthlessly devour the beastkin's vitality at the cost of his own cultivation, it may be possible. However, in this way, that beastkin with good intentions will end up in an extremely miserable end." Hexi took a deep breath, requite kindness with enmity. "That's right." Nangongyu sneered, "It's simply ungrateful and cruel. So you must be careful when facing person like Xuyang." Hexi nodded with a cold gleam in her eyes. Then, some important information flashed across her mind, but it was just a glimpse. She couldn't grasp it anymore. By the time Hexi and Nangongyu arrived at the square, almost all the people from the other branches had already arrived. This time, it wasn't just the students who came, almost 90% of the academy's deans and elders appeared on the square. Moreover, Hexi also saw Xuyang, who was standing in front of him and the others, with a livid complexion and wounds on his body. Seeing Xuyang showed a trace of guilt and worry on his face. He stepped forward and said in a hoarse voice, "Xuyang, when you arrive at the magical beast forest, you must follow me and don't run around." Hexi nodded, then she frowned and said, "Dean, your injury?" "It's nothing, just a minor injury." Xuyang said indifferently, "All the deans disagree with you all going to the magical beast forest for training, but the academy insists on this decision, and those bastards in the Mojing pavilion." Having said that, Xuyang's voice stopped. He gritted his teeth to calm the anger in his heart. "In short, it has become a fact for you to go to the magical beast forest, but Xuyang, your cultivation is only at the foundation establishment stage. Why don't you stay in the academy?" As Xuyang was talking, Deputy Dean Xuyang suddenly said from above, "Everyone, please listen to me. Most of you must already know the reason why you are gathered here today. That is to go to the magical beast forest for training." As soon as the words, "magical beast forest," came out, even those who knew the truth a long time ago were in an uproar. That is the magical beast forest known as the human grave. Even the martial artists at the nascent soul stage could die in it. Let alone these low-level students. Deputy Dean Zhang's eyes were full of worry and panic, but the man in black next to him stepped forward and glanced at him coldly. He could only take a deep breath and continued, "This time, the training will be recorded in your assessment results this year. During the training process in the magical beast forest, whoever can capture the beastkin cubs alive will be directly promoted to the high-level academy and rewarded with 10,000 points. Those who perform particularly well will receive the slot of going to the Siam continent." As soon as these words were said, half of the originally worried people became excited and eager to try. Chapter 1352, Voluntary Registration. These students are only under 30 years old, and most of them were inexperienced. They had always only heard about the horror of the magical beast forest, but they had not really realized the horror of this mission. Now that they heard that capturing beastkin cubs alive would bring so many benefits, they had long forgotten about the danger. Deputy Dean Xuyang continued, "Besides, sending everyone to the magical beast forest is not disregarding everyone's safety. Deans from our 8 branches and several nascent soul elders from the academy will go with you. There are also several senior doctors from the Doctors Association. The academy will do everything possible to ensure everyone's safety." This time, even the remaining half of the worried people were a little eager to try. But they didn't see the pitiful and mocking eyes of the man in black above. Deputy Dean Xuyang breathed a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat from his forehead. "This training is a compulsory mission. Half of the people in each branch must go. Students above the Gold Core Stage Intermediate Stage are not allowed to evade, otherwise they will be expelled from the academy. The remaining insufficient slots will be made up according to the power ranking. Of course, we also welcome those who voluntarily sign up. All voluntary sign-ups, regardless of the final experience results, will receive an additional reward of 500 points. Okay, next, each branch will compile the list of participants. We will set off tomorrow by 7 a.m. 7 a.m.? Hexi's eyes were full of astonishment. Isn't this too rush? It's like they can't wait to send all the students to the magical beast forest. Hexi was thinking, then Qian Dazhuang's voice came, Shiyu, shall we participate? Hexi turned around, raised her eyebrows and said, of course. Wu Qi was now in a coma. If she wanted to cure him, apart from retrieving Wu Qi's Wood Vitality Pearl, the most likely way to find a way might be in the magical beast forest. She could take the opportunity to check it out. Qian Dazhuang and others laughed immediately after hearing the words, great, Shiyu will participate, then we will also volunteer to sign up. In fact, Qian Dazhuang, Jin Ziyu and others were all at the Gold Core stage. In addition, there were few people in Huang Medical Branch, and there were very few Gold Core stage. They must participate whether they volunteered or not. But when they heard that Shiyu was going together, they suddenly felt relieved. Even Zhang Yi and Fang Yun, who had a lower level of cultivation, asked to sign up one after another. Zheng Shouyue had been worried about what to do. If the students resisted, did he really have to kick them out? But unexpectedly, in the end, just because Shiyu said that she would go, more than half of the people in Huang Medical Branch wanted to sign up voluntarily. Great, I was worried about the danger of the magical beast forest just now. Now that Shiyu is going too, I don't worry anymore. That's right. Shiyu led Qian Dazhuang and a group of trash by herself back then to complete the heaven-level mission with ease. Even the magical beast forest is nothing to be afraid of. Damn, who are you calling trash? I'll beat you up. Ha ha ha, Dazhuang, don't even think of bullying me with your Gold Core stage. I took the medicinal pills given by Shiyu, plus this short period of training, I have now reached the pseudo-Gold Core stage. After a while, I'm not afraid of you anymore. Different from the fearful and intriguing atmosphere of other branches, the Huang Medical Branch was full of laughter. Chapter 1353, Good, very good. Zheng Shouyue stared blankly at the boys and girls laughing and cursing around Shiyu. He couldn't believe that they were students from his own branch. Once upon a time, these people were dispirited, cowardly and humble. They only wanted to escape when they encountered danger. When they saw the students in other branches, they were resentful and felt inferior. But now, in just a few months, they had undergone such a big change. And all of this was just because of Shiyu. Zheng Shouyue was in a daze when suddenly a man's deep and cold voice came into his ears, I'll join too. Zheng Shouyue was startled by the sudden sound. When he turned around and saw the person who spoke, he was so frightened that he jumped back several meters before exclaiming, Xian. Xianmu. That's right, the man in front of him was dressed in a black robe, his eyes were cold, and his stern face was expressionless. He was none other than Xianmu from the Huang Medical Branch. Although Zheng Shouyue was a dean of Huang Medical Branch, he knew better than anyone else that Xianmu's cultivation level was far higher than him. And his identity was even more terrifying. Zheng Shouyue took a deep breath and asked a little stammeringly, Student Xianmu, what did you just say? Xianmu frowned, looking annoyed. He didn't want to talk more. As he looked at Shiyu, there was an imperceptible wave in his eyes, which seemed gentle and moved. Xianmu smelled a conspiracy from the arrangement of the Miracle Healer Academy. He never wanted to be related to someone else, but this time, for the first time, he did not want anything to go wrong with Shiyu. He wanted to protect her by his side. Nangong Yu, who was standing behind Hexi, knew his intention immediately. He glared at him, She is mine, so I will protect her. I don't need you to meddle in my business. Xianmu sneered, none of your business. Seeing that Xianmu didn't speak, Zheng Shouyue was about to ask again tremblingly, then Qian Dazhuang, who was relatively heartless, yelled, Dean Zheng, didn't you hear? Xianmu is also going to the magical beast forest. Ha, with Master Xianmu here, what magical beast are we afraid of? Zheng Shouyue still couldn't react to it, but after all, he was a nascent soul expert and a branch dean. His expression and voice quickly recovered from the shock. Xianmu, don't you never participate in the activities of the academy? Xianmu squinted with a hint of impatience. Qian Dazhuang laughed heartlessly and said, isn't it obvious? Master Xianmu is worried about Shiyu's safety. Isn't that right, Senior Xian? Zhang Yi on the side also said in a childlike manner, Senior Xianmu has always taken good care of brother Shiyu. In the past, Senior Xianmu never let other people live in Huang No. 1 dormitory, but not brother Shiyu. Last time, Senior Xianmu stopped those villains from capturing brother Shiyu. The magical beast forest is so dangerous this time, of course Senior Xianmu will follow. Nangongyu gritted his teeth, good, very good. If this man with bad intentions is allowed to get close to Shi'er again, my name will not be Nangongyu. He held Hexi firmly with one arm, showing his sovereignty. Hexi was dumbfounded. These people are really imaginative. At this time, Zheng Shouyue also remembered the scene of the theft of the Mojing Pavilion, and he immediately accepted this explanation very happily. Indeed, with Xianmu present, the safety of the Huang medical branch was guaranteed by 50% more. Chapter 1354, Stupid. However, at this time, a person shouted in a panic, Brother Xianmu, why are you going? Don't you know that the magical beast forest is very dangerous? Can you and Brother Shiyu don't go, okay? The young man's face was pale. His eyes were filled with real panic and worry. He rushed over in a hurry and wanted to grab Xianmu's sleeve to stop him. The original harmonious and cheerful atmosphere of Huang Medical Branch was instantly destroyed. Everyone looked at the inexplicably disruptive person with subtle expressions. Many whispered mockingly. This Tong Bing is really stupid. Who is Senior Xianmu? What is he? He actually calls Senior Xianmu brother. So disgusted. I heard that he got into Miracle Healer Academy through the back door. This kind of person has no strength at all. What else can he do besides riding on someone's coattails? The voices of the people from Huang Medical Branch were not low, so Tong Bing of course heard them too. Tears of shame, anger, and embarrassment filled his eyes. He didn't understand why these people always used such malice to speculate and humiliate him. Tong Bing wanted to escape from this painful place, but when he thought of Xianmu's safety, he held back his tears and let himself bear the humiliation to stay. Seeing that Xianmu didn't even look at him, he wanted to go to Hexi and grab his sleeve, but he met Nangongyu's cold and piercing eyes. Tong Bing was so frightened that he could only take a step back and begged in a low voice, Shiyu, you are at the foundation establishment stage like me, so we don't need to participate in this experience. As long as you don't go, Xianmu brother won't take risks. Can we not go? With our foundation establishment stage cultivation, we will only be their burden. Before Hexi had time to say anything, Qian Dazhuang had already sneered mercilessly and said, Bah, you'll of course be our burden, but how can a trash like you compare yourself with Shiyu? That's right. Just don't go if you're afraid of death, why drag Shiyu along with you? None of us expect you to go. Yeah, won't he drag us down if he comes? These ridicules became louder. Tong Bing felt a twinge of shame and anger at what they said. He looked at Shiyu with tears in his eyes, hoping that he could clarify for him. However, Shiyu didn't even look at him. She just talked to Nangongyu on her own. Xianmu didn't even look at him, he only had Shiyu in his eyes. Tong Bing clenched his hands into fists with tears streaming down his face. He just felt that at this moment, the whole world was isolating and humiliating him, making him feel indescribably lonely and cold. Those who had signed up all left to make preparations before departure. Tong Bing stood there blankly. No one paid attention to his existence, let alone his tears and heartache. After a long time, most of the students in the square left. Tong Bing was about to go back in a daze when he suddenly heard a low and gentle male voice in his ear. Tong Bing, people in this academy bullied you and humiliated you so much, don't you want to take revenge? That Xiyu, he is just a foundation establishment stage like you should have what he has too. Don't you want to revenge? Tong Bing's breathing stopped suddenly. He suddenly turned his head with his mouth closing and opening without making a sound, but there was a scorching light coming from his eyes. Chapter 1355, Conspiracy Father. Lu Zixi squatted in front of Lu Xuyang with a face full of unwillingness and panic and said, "Father, you know how scary and dangerous the magical beast forest is. Why do you want your daughter to go there?" Lu Xuyang glanced at her with a gentle smile, but there was not much affection in his eyes. His words were full of kindness. "Zixi, listen to father. You suffered several losses under that Siam, right?" Lu Zixi eyes were fixed, and a deep hatred and resentment flashed in her eyes. She raised her voice, "Xiyu, that despicable and insidious villain, he just relies on the ancient pill formula obtained from the sealed dragon domain." Lu Xuyang patted her lightly and said in disapproval, "Zixi, what did I tell you? Never underestimate your enemies and don't let your enemies have a chance to grow. Xiyu and the existence of Xingda Hall are a great threat to our doctors' association. We must get rid of this person. This time will be the best opportunity." Lu Zixi's eyes suddenly lit up, and his expression became a little excited. "Father, you mean in the magical beast forest?" A glimmer of light flashed across Lu Xuyang's eyes as he smirked. "This is the best chance to get rid of him. I have dispatched 80% of the nascent soul intermediate stage and later stage elders of the Doctors Association. They will all obey your orders. We will get that Shiyu's life and the ancient pill formula in his hand. Zixi, can you do it?" Lu Zixi was excited when she heard the words. Even her body trembled with excitement. "Is the person, who made me taste humiliation and defeat for the first time in my life and me sleepless and jealous, finally going to die this time?" However, Lu Zixi immediately thought of something and said worriedly, "But I heard that Xianmu also signed up. Xianmu's strength is unfathomable, and he cares about that Xiyu very much. Plus, there is also a mysterious guard with a high cultivation beside Xiyu. I suspect the person is sent by King of Hell Nan Gongyu." When she said these words, the jealousy in Lu Zixi's heart was like 10,000 ants gnawing at her heart. Never mind that Nan Gongyu does everything possible to protect Xiyu, but why does Xianmu, who has never cared about anyone in the lower realm, look at Xiyu with admiration? Why am I not the one who got all this? Lu Xuyang was not worried when he heard the words, but he showed a more gentle and deep smile. "Don't worry, I have arranged everything. Whether it is the guards sent by Nan Gongyu, Xianmu, or the academy elders, they will all be transferred away. I also planted a kindling beside Xiyu. I promise that when the time comes, I will burn him to ashes." Lu Zixi stood up abruptly and said in a trembling voice, "Father, please tell me what to do. As long as Xiyu can be eliminated, I'm willing to venture into the magical beast forest." Lu Xuyang smiled with flickering eyes, and he slowly revealed his plan. Early the next morning, almost half of the students of Miracle Healer Academy gathered in the square. At this time, 2 airships had parked in the square. These airships could accommodate thousands of people. This trip to the magical beast forest was the biggest operation of Miracle Healer Academy in recent decades, so the airships, medicinal pills and magic weapons that could be prepared were the best. All students participating in the training would receive a high-level storage bag from the academy, which contained many healing and spiritual power-replenishing medicinal pills, rank 6 or rank 7 magic weapons, and many high-grade crystal stones. Chapter 1356, Too disgusting. Most of the students in Huang Medical Branch were poor. Although they had become a lot richer after doing missions with Xuyang and others during this period of time, they were still happy to see such a magnificent scene. Everyone was laughing and joking when they got on the airship, as if what they were going to was not the dangerous magical beast forest, but some kind of outing in the wild. In fact, most of the students who participated in this trial were very relaxed. After all, there were so many elders and deans accompanying them. In their subconscious minds, they felt that the crisis in the magical beast forest was far away from them. Everyone didn't know what kind of terrible disaster they were about to encounter in the magical beast forest. People in each branch were assigned to different cabins. When the people from Huang Medical Branch entered their cabins, they all looked surprised. Because there was an unexpected person in their cabin. The straightforward Xuyang exclaimed when he saw this person, "Tong Bing, why are you here? Didn't you fear to death yesterday and refuse to participate? What are you doing here? Aren't you dragging us down?" Tong Bing originally put on a friendly and innocent smiling face when waiting for everyone to come in, but when he heard Xuyang's words, his expression suddenly became sullen. There was a faint mist in his eyes. Fang Yun on the side frowned and said in a low voice, "Yesterday, I asked Dean Zeng for advice on pill formula, then Tong Bing suddenly came over and said that he wanted to join this trial. Dean Zeng persuaded him for a long time, telling him not to overreach himself, but he insisted to participate. He even said that since brother Xianmu is going, he must be by his side to protect him." Fang Yun was kind by nature, so he didn't finish it, but a burst of laughter suddenly broke out in the cabin. "Did I hear you right? Tong Bing, a cowardly scum, actually said he wants to protect Xianmu. Just try your best not to be trampled to death by the magical beast. Brother Xianmu all day long, and you cried at almost everything. Does he prefer the same gender and like senior Xianmu? No way. This is too disgusting. This weakling even fantasizes about getting the powerful Xianmu." Listening to everyone's merciless ridicule, Tong Bing trembled with shame and anger. He opened his mouth, wanting to say, "Shiyu also flirts with men, why don't you call him disgusting? Why everyone is humiliating me with the utmost malice? Torture him. What the hell have I done wrong?" At this moment, Shiyu, Nangong Yu and Xianmu also entered the cabin. Nangong Yu never concealed his possessiveness and pampering toward Shiyu. Therefore, as soon as the three of them entered, everyone found that Shiyu's shoulder was being hugged by her inconspicuous guard. When they walked to the couch on the side, everyone consciously stepped aside. Nangong Yu took it for granted and sat down on the couch with Shiyu in his arms, poured her a cup of spiritual tea, and gently combed her temples. Shiyu accepted all these services and tenderness, and she seemed to be at ease as if she had long been used to Nangong Yu's intimacy and pampering. On the contrary, Xianmu, who was admired by everyone at Miracle Healer Academy, was left alone. People from Huang Medical Branch couldn't help but secretly commented, "I always feel that Shiyu's guard and senior Xianmu have ulterior feelings for Shiyu." Chapter 1357, Envy. A girl looked at Shiyu's delicate smooth face, and she couldn't help muttering, "Shiyu is so beautiful. Even if a man is attracted to him, it's reasonable. Yeah. And Shiyu is so powerful. He is almost omnipotent." Miluo continent also had a lot of men who like men. Although the custom wasn't mainstream, it wasn't too shocking. Compared with the obsession with men, the people of Huang Medical Branch paid more attention to, but I think Shiyu is too blind. Compared to his guard, isn't our senior Xianmu more handsome, stronger, and more imposing? That's right. I think Shiyu and senior Xianmu are a good match. They are even roommates. Being together in the same room every day, they must have a good relationship. Suddenly, Nangong Yu exuded an aura so powerful that it made people tremble. The entire cabin suddenly succumbed to strange silence. It was so quiet that everyone even held their breath in a panic. Nangong Yu's cold gaze swept over the face of the person who just said that he was not a good match for Shier. His eyes seemed to be quenched with cold poison, making everyone who was being glared at shiver. It wasn't until Hexi laughed out loud and gently shook Nan Gong-yu's hand that the atmosphere in the entire cabin returned to normal. In fact, if His Royal Highness King of Hell regained his original appearance, he might be able to drop the jaws of everyone in this cabin. At that time, they even felt that there was no man or woman in the world worthy to stand with such this amazing king. Hexi pursed her lips. Her eyes gleamed with faint satisfaction and sweetness. She quietly grabbed the hand of the man behind her. Tong Bing stared blankly at Xiyu, who was surrounded by everyone, smiling sweetly. His heart was full of envy. Xiyu was always the focus of the crowd, the darling of everyone. He also likes men. They are disgusted about me, but when they talk about Xiyu, they feel that Xiyu and Xianmu are a good match. As long as Xiyu exists, I will always be like dust, being isolated and completely ignored. Brother Xianmu never even looked at him. He remembered the person who asked him before departing, entering Miracle Healer Academy with the foundation establishment stage is considered very good, but because of the existence of Xiyu that you appear so incompetent, don't you hate him? Tong Bing clenched his hands hidden in his sleeves. His nails were embedded deep into his flesh. He was so jealous of Xiyu to the point of hating her. In the depths of the magical beast forest, there were towering trees all over the place. The forest was surrounded by clouds and mist all year round. This was a forbidden place for humans and a holy place for beastkins. No human martial artist could enter this area, not even a demigod who had broken through to the soul-splitting stage. So, no one knew that there was a palace on a clearing in this jungle. This palace was not luxurious and noble but simple and elegant. At this time, in the palace, a young man with long hair hanging down to the ground and gorgeous eyes was sitting at the top, looking down lazily. Kneeling below were many good-looking boys and girls, but they more or less retained the characteristics of beastkin. Some were ears, some were tails, and others were partial scales. A beastkin could transform itself when it became an adult, but once it was severely damaged, it would reveal its real body and transfigure a part of its real body. Chapter 1358, Revenge. A handsome young man knelt on the ground, but he had a dark scar on his face. His left hand hanging on the ground was severed too. The young man said with a hoarse voice full of resentment and pain, "Those human beings are even more ruthless than the demons in hell. We watched our brothers and sisters die in their hands one by one, but there was nothing we could do. King, you must avenge us." After the young man finished speaking, he slammed his head on the ground. The other beastkins who were kneeling behind the young man recalled their painful experience during this period and remembered those relatives and friends who had died. They cried bitterly and kept kowtowing while kneeling on the ground. The man in red clothes sitting at the top breathed out slowly. He made a captivating smile, but his words were filled with malice. Human beings are really getting more and more greedy and stupid. It seems that if we don't teach them a lesson, they will really think that we beastkin is easy to be bullied. At this moment, a girl kneeling behind the boy raised her head and said in a sobbing tone, "King, there are good people among humans too. This time, we were saved by 3 humans. Otherwise, we would be trapped in that dark dungeon until we die." The eyelashes of the man in red clothes trembled, and he said in a deep voice, "Our kind always repay kindness and enmity. Li Yu, do you know who saved you?" The girl shook her head, bit her lips and said, "I don't know their identities, but if I meet them again, I can sense their smell." Before Li Yu could finish speaking, the boy who kowtowed first interrupted her abruptly and said hatefully, "King, although I don't know who saved us, I do know where is the person who harmed us." "Oh. Where?" The young man suddenly raised his head, and his eyes were sparkling with blazing fire. "It's Miracle Healer Academy. I saw the plaque. We have been imprisoned in the courtyard of Miracle Healer Academy." The man in red clothes' eyes suddenly turned cold as he murmured, "Miracle Healer Academy, hee. Miracle Healer Academy, very good. Really good." At this moment, a report came from outside the door. A pangolin beastkin that was not fully transformed ran in, knelt down in front of the man in red clothes and said, "King, there are many human martial artists approaching the magical beast forest in airships." The man in red clothes frowned and said, "Do you know who it is?" The pangolin beastkin immediately nodded and said, "My subordinates have already sent Skylark to investigate. It is the students and elders of Miracle Healer Academy who have come to practice in the magical beast forest, and they want to capture the Beastkin Cubs alive." "What? How dare they?" As soon as the pangolin beastkin said this, all the beastkin in the palace were in an uproar. The young man with broken arm even jumped up from the ground and said hatefully, "Those scum, those demons, they actually dare to come to the magical beast forest." The young man looked up at the man in red clothes. His eyes were full of burning hatred and pleading, "King, please let me personally lead the army of magical beasts and tear our enemies to pieces." The man in red clothes sneered and slowly stood up from his seat. "I didn't go to them, but they even delivered themselves to our door." "Hee hee, good, this saves me a lot of trouble." "Feng Wan, remember, don't kill them all at once, let them taste the pain that is worse than death." Chapter 1359, Bad Premonition, as King commands. Feng Wan knelt on the ground excitedly. When he raised his head, his face was already twisted with hatred. "I will let them all taste the hellish fear and pain the moment they close their eyes." The speed of the airships was very fast. After only a day and a night of flying, the magical beast forest had already appeared in sight. The magical beast forest occupied an unimaginably large area, almost across the borders of 5 countries in the Miluo continent. There were rare materials in the forest that were unimaginable outside, and this was one of the reasons why beastkins only lived in this place and rarely come out to attack the human kingdom. Hexi stood on the deck and looked down. All she could see was the lush vegetation, and she couldn't see the situation inside at all. However, she frowned. "It's so strange." Nangongyu stepped forward, embraced her from behind and said softly, "What's wrong?" Hexi looked down. "Nangongyu, you have entered the magical beast forest many times, right?" Nangongyu nodded, "But it's only the peripheral area, and I haven't gone deep into the real hinterland." Hexi asked, "Is the magical beast forest you entered also like this?" "What are you referring to?" Nangongyu didn't understand her for a while. "Quiet, deathly quiet." Hexi said in a deep voice, "Even if I release my divine sense, I can't detect any aura of living things. Even these trees exude a smell of death." Nangongyu was taken aback for a moment, then he let out his divine sense and his eyes also turned gloomy slightly. He really didn't realize it before Hexi reminded him. Now that he examined it carefully, the magical beast forest was really terribly silent. It seemed to be shrouded in an ominous aura of death. Hexi curled her fingers and tapped the ship's side lightly. Her delicate eyebrows were slightly frowned. "For some reason, I have a bad feeling." At this moment, Wei Chengyuan came to look for Hexi. When he heard her words, he couldn't help but nervously said, "Shiyu, did you notice something's wrong?" Wei Chengyuan's voice was a little louder, which quickly attracted the attention of many people. Hexi didn't hide it, but she just repeated her worries. "No matter how lush the vegetation is, it's impossible not to see a bird. This kind of quietness is like a preset trap, waiting for us to jump into it ourselves." The people of the Huang medical branch had unconditional trust in Hexi. Hearing what she said, their expression immediately became dignified and anxious. But immediately, a soft and pleasant female voice broke the atmosphere. "Shiyu, I know you are just at the foundation establishment stage, so it is normal to be afraid of entering the magical beast forest, but you don't know anything about the magical beast forest at all." Magical beast forest is indeed dangerous, but the real danger lies in the depths of tens of miles deep in the forest. In this peripheral area, even if there are magical beasts and beastkins, they are not to be feared. You don't have to be so nervous that you even affect other people's students' emotions. Hexi looked up, not surprised that Lu Zhishi would speak at such a time. She wasn't interested in talking nonsense with her either, so she just sneered, turned around and entered the cabin. The people of the Huang medical branch followed behind Hexi without even looking at Lu Zixi. Among the remaining students, some agreed with Lu Zixi and some were jealous of Xiyu, but none of them dared to speak out. Xiyu had already proved her strength with her actions. There were very few people in this school who could beat her, but there were many who had been treated by him and had taken her medicinal pills. Chapter 1360, Arrangement. Lu Zixi only felt that the rhetoric she brewed was like hitting the cotton. She felt aggrieved that her body trembled slightly because of anger. Everyone used to listen to her, respected her and praised her in the past, but Xiyu has stolen most of her limelight after coming in for a few months. If this person is going to die, he must die in the magical beast forest. Soon, the airships hovered above the magical beast forest. The airship's shield opened, and each student and elder controlled their flying magic weapons to slowly descend from the sky. Young men and women, with fluttering robes, descended from the sky. This scene was spectacular. When the students of Miracle Healer Academy landed, they all maintained an elegant posture. There was a hint of self-satisfaction and arrogance on their faces. They were the most anticipated and admired children in the Miluo continent. However, this group of people did not realize that in the darkness, there were many scarlet eyes staring at them, waiting to pull them into the abyss. The last student landed in the forest, and the airships were kept away by Dean Li Qingquan. The vegetation in the forest was dense. It was impossible to find a spacious open space to gather so many students. However, when the first few elders landed, they had already waved their long swords and cut down all the surrounding trees. Deputy Dean Xuyang, who led the team, was also full of worries at first, but now he had checked within a radius of more than 10 kilometers and found that there were only some low and intermediate level magical beasts, and he was immediately relieved. It seems that this time the trip is not so dangerous. Although the magical beast forest was full of dangers, what really scared people was the high-level beastkin hidden deep in the forest. But those high-level beastkins had an agreement with the human powerhouses. Most of the time they would not come out at will. Deputy Dean Xuyang cleared his throat and explained the rules and arrangements of the operation to the students below. In summary, first, they were divided into 9 groups, namely the 8 branches of the academy and the elite class where Lu Zixi and others belong, also known as the Pioneer Branch of Miracle Healer Academy. Second, each group would be assigned a branch dean and 3 to 5 elders to protect the safety of the students. Third, everyone's mission is to hunt Beastkin Cubs. When calculating the scores, they would be divided into individual and group calculations. The performance of everyone would be counted by Deputy Dean Xuyang and Academy elders in the dark. Most people had no objection to this. However, someone from the leading branch suddenly said, "Deputy Dean Xuyang, I think, according to the strength of senior Xianmu and Xiyu, they should be assigned to our pioneer branch. Only us who have capable strength can cooperate with them well so as to better complete the mission. Besides, there are only a few dozen people in Huang Medical Branch, and the overall strength is also obvious. With such a huge disparity in strength, it would be lucky if they don't drag us down. Master Xianmu, Xiyu, what do you think?" As soon as this remark came out, the people of Huang Medical Branch suddenly rioted collectively. At the same time, they looked at Xianmu and Xiyu with a little worry. "Fuck you." Qian Dazhuang cursed angrily, "Our Huang Medical Branch can't have people with powerful strength? Why should our people go to your group? You bastards can't wait to see us all die in the magical beast forest, right?" Chapter 1361, Very Dangerous. Qin Xiaofeng also sneered and said, "When you expelled Xiyu from Heaven Medical Branch, why didn't you say that he didn't belong to Huang Medical Branch? Only now you such a thing. Won't you feel embarrassed? Do you all even feel shameful?" The young man from the Pioneer Branch who spoke looked pale. He said while bearing the humiliation, "Then even if Xiyu stays in Huang Medical Branch, at least Senior Xianmu should join other branch." Even if it's not our pioneer branch, he can join the heaven or earth medical branch. It would be too wasteful to let him be with a group of trash with the strength of senior. The young man's words immediately made everyone in the other branches felt eager. No one didn't know about Xian Mu's strength. If he could join their groups, whether it was their scores or safety, it would be guaranteed. Tong Bing looked at Xian Mu expectantly, thinking that as long as Xian Mu's brother went to another branch, he must follow. He would never leave Xian Mu's side. All eyes fell on Xian Mu. However, Xian Mu treated like they didn't exist. Not to mention their sight, he didn't even put these people into his eyes at all. His eyes fell on Shiyu as he said in a deep voice, "It's dangerous here, follow me." As soon as these words came out, Nangong Yu's eyes turned gloomy immediately. He looked over coldly, "Do I need you to protect my woman?" But the people from Huang Medical Branch let out a long sigh of relief. There were smiles on their faces. Zhang Yi, the youngest, even made a grimace at the people in the other branches and said with a grin, "Senior Xian Mu is willing to come here only because brother Shiyu is here. He wants to protect brother Shiyu. You want Xian Mu to go to your group? In your dream." The faces of the people in other branches all turned green due to shame, but the people of the Huang Medical Branch laughed loudly. Zheng Shouyue was also in a happy mood. He even said generously, "If you really think it's unfair, you don't need to assign the accompanying elders to us. It's enough for me to protect my students." Lu Zhishi's face turned grim. She made a gesture to the people next to her. Immediately, 2 Doctors Association elders and 1 Academy elder stood up and said, "We are ordered to accompany and protect the students of Huang Medical Branch. This is our duty. We must follow." Of course, Zheng Shouyue would not object to 3 more people protecting the students. After receiving the inscribed jade slip for emergency help, he took the students of the Huang Medical Branch and left first. Looking at these people leaving, Lu Zhishi showed a sneer. Hexi walked side by side with Nangong Yu and Xian Mu in the dense jungle. The excited voice of the Huang Medical Branch could be heard from time to time in the distance as they hunted down low-level magical beasts. Although hunting low-level magical beasts was not the mission of this trial, the inner core of magical beasts was very good for cultivation. Of course, they would not let them go. Hexi looked around and frowned deeply. Everything here is normal. There is no dead silence. Low-level magical beasts, birds, small animals, green vegetation, everything here is very similar to a normal mountain forest. But why does it look so weird from a distance on the airship? Is it really my illusion? Hexi's murmured voice was heard by Nangong Yu and Xian Mu. Xian Mu responded immediately, "No, this place is very dangerous." Chapter 1362, Beastkin Cub. Tong Bing had been following behind the 3 of them step by step. He really wanted to stand beside Xian Mu, and even being cuddled in his arms. However, Tong Bing turned his eyes to Shiyu. As long as Shiyu was around, Xian Mu wouldn't even look at him. Hearing Xian Mu say that this place was very dangerous, Tong Bing shuddered subconsciously and wanted to step forward and grab Xian Mu's sleeve, but he silently withdrew his hand. Nangong Yu didn't bother to quarrel with Xian Mu anymore. He frowned and said, "This place seems to be the same as other places in the magical beast forest, but I always have a strange feeling." Nangong Yu hadn't finished speaking when an exclamation came not far away. "Beastkin, it's a Beastkin Cub. I found a Beastkin Cub that can transform. Everyone come here." As soon as these words came out, Hexi's complexion changed slightly. Her figure flickered and disappeared in place. Nangong Yu and Xian Mu also disappeared at the same time. No one cared about Tong Bing behind him, and no one gave him a hand. Everyone, including Shiyu, seemed to have forgotten his existence. Tong Bing's eyes were slightly red. There was a flash of deep jealousy in his eyes. He enchanted his feet with a gale wind spell and quickly ran toward the direction of the sound. It was not a student of Huang Medical Branch who found the Beastkin Cub, but a medicinal boy of an elder of the Doctors Association. When Hexi arrived, she saw only a beautiful girl surrounded by dozens of people. Her face was full of panic. This girl looked to be only 12 years old, not much older than Shaoli, and her appearance was almost the same as that of a human child. However, Hexi could detect the Beastkin aura surging from this girl without using divine sense to investigate carefully. The medicinal boy who found the girl said with excitement, "This Beastkin Cub has transformed so perfectly, the inherited bloodline must be very rare. Master, if we can catch her, President Lu will definitely." Before the medicinal boy finished speaking, he was glared at by Elder Chen of the Doctors Association and stopped talking immediately. But Elder Chen was very excited. Their real purpose here was not to hunt Beastkin Cubs, but he also knew how eager the president and the people above were to get the inherited bloodline Beastkin. If this Beastkin could be caught, his future status in the Doctors Association. No, perhaps, he might still be favored by those above. The students of Huang Medical Branch all showed expressions of unbearable. Several girls even frowned and said, "Could we have made a mistake? This is obviously a little girl. We are so many, how can we attack a little girl?" Elder Chen's medicinal boy snorted and said with a sneer, "Have you forgotten the purpose of this trip? The Beastkin aura on this little Beastkin is almost overflowing, and you still can't smell it? You guys are indeed trash." The students of Huang Medical Branch all had ugly faces. The two elders of the Doctors Association also glanced at them contemptuously. Elder Chen took out a magic weapon similar to a whip and lashed at the surrounded little girl. Ah! The little girl staggered and stumbled over, crying out in pain. Her original legs also turned into the shape of a snake because of the pain. It's a snake Beastkin, and it's a very rare amethyst snake in the Miluo continent. Ha ha ha, we got a big one. Seeing the little girl transformed into a half-snake, Elder Chen became excited. "Quick, you guys surround her quickly. I want to put her in my Qian-kun mirror." Chapter 1363, There are traps. Most of the students of Huang Medical Branch showed a look of unbearable, some couldn't help but said, "Even if she is a Beastkin, she is just a child. So many of us deal with a little girl, it's too, bah." "What little girl?" Elder Chen's medicinal boy said with contempt and disgust, "If she is not of our race, her heart must be different. Beastkin is Beastkin after all. They are born to be enslaved by us. They thought they could live like normal people by turning themselves into human appearance. Hee, stop dreaming." The scene was silent. Even though the people from Huang Medical Branch felt pity, they all stopped their movements when they thought of the phrase, "If she is not of our race, her heart must be different." At this time, no one noticed that the little girl who was knocked down on the ground showed a cold and malicious light in her drooping eyes. Seeing that Elder Chen was about to use the Qian-kun mirror to take away the little Beastkin let out a strange cry, then she turned into a small snake and fled toward the distance. "Hurry up, don't let her run away." Elder Chen yelled and anxiously chased after her. Although the people from Huang Medical Branch couldn't bear it, after remembering the purpose of this trip, they also chased after her. Zheng Shouyue always felt that something was wrong, but before he could call the students back, those people had already hurriedly chased after her. He stomped his feet, and he had no choice but to say to the rest of the crowd, "Follow me. Also, don't leave too far from me." The group of people clamored while chasing in the direction where the little snake fled. Hexi, Nangong Yu, and Xianmu also followed slowly with indescribable seriousness in their eyes. They flew at low altitude at high speed for about 15 minutes, then Elder Chen suddenly screamed in front, "No, it's a trap." "Ah!" Followed by the miserable scream of the medicinal boy. The scream was so sharp and terrifying that the hearts of everyone who were still flying forward were tense. There was a bit of fear on their faces. The next moment, everyone felt a blur in front of their eyes. A mist rose from the forest, covering everyone. The person who was originally flying in midair suddenly fell from the air, unable to fly anymore. Xuyang got up from the ground in embarrassment and hurriedly looked around. Everything in front was normal, and there didn't seem to be any fatal crisis, but there seemed to be a white mist in the distance. However, when Xuyang was about to fly again, he found that he seemed to be suppressed by something. Someone couldn't help asking in panic, "I seem to have heard a scream just now. What happened? Where's Elder Chen?" As soon as this person finished speaking, everyone saw two figures ejected from the white mist in front and fell heavily in front of them. Seeing these two people, everyone gasped in unison. These two people were Elder Chen and his medicinal boy. Both of them were covered with scars. Elder Chen was better. Although his head and face were covered with scars and blood, after he consumed a medicinal pill, the wounds began to heal slowly. But that medicinal boy could almost be described as horrible. His face was completely blood. His nose and ears had been bitten off by something, revealing jagged wounds. One of his legs was missing, and it was bleeding. It seemed to be forcibly torn off by something. Chapter 1364, Confinement Space. In addition, his abdomen was also cut open. The viscera, food residues and feces flowed out all over the floor, emitting a disgusting stench. But the most frightening thing was that the medicinal boy was already like this, yet he was not dead yet. He had one eye open, looking forward in horror. He kept mumbling in an intermittent voice, "Help, help me." After Elder Chen healed his injury, he immediately took out medicinal pills to treat the medicinal boy. However, the internal organs were destroyed, so the medicinal pills could not be absorbed by the medicinal boy at all. Even if Elder Chen was a senior doctor of the Doctors Association, there was nothing he could do. Suddenly, he looked up at Xiyu and ordered eagerly, "Xiyu, cure him. Quick." Hexi raised her eyebrows, and her expression was calm. She didn't even move a step. She just said indifferently, "Why?" Elder Chen was choked by her attitude, then he was furious. "Did you forget that we are here to practice together? He is also your teammate, how can you refuse to save him?" Before Hexi could speak, someone from the Huang Medical Branch said angrily, "Damn, you are the elder of the Doctors Association? You want Xiyu to treat the person whom you can't cure? Won't you feel ashamed?" "Hee, it's fine if you don't have the skill to save people, but you even yell at Xiyu? Is this the attitude you should have when asking for help?" Elder Chen and another elder from the Doctors Association trembled angrily. With this delay, the medicinal boy finally swallowed his last breath in unparalleled fear and pain. Elder Chen stared at Hexi with resentment and said, "Xiyu, you will face your retribution later for not saving him." "Enough." Xuyang said coldly with a straight face, "Is this the time to argue about this? Don't you realize that we are trapped in this place?" As he said that, he turned his head to look at Elder Chen. "Elder Chen, what happened just now? Who attacked you?" Elder Chen was stunned for a moment. A trace of fear flashed in his eyes. After a while, he whispered, I don't know. Just now I chased the little beastkin to this ace, then the white mist suddenly appeared. Then, I heard the screams of my disciples. So I rushed into the white mist. When I came into the white mist, I couldn't see anything, but I felt countless pairs of claws were attacking me and sharp teeth were biting my body. If I didn't self-destruct my magic weapon, I would be dead like my apprentice now. Elder Chen's words made everyone's eyes fall on the white mist. The students of Huang Medical Branch showed panic expressions. After all, they were just children. Even though they had experienced ups and downs, they had never faced such a strange crisis. At this moment, Hexi also frowned and said in a deep voice, "It seems that we were ambushed." Nangongyu also nodded and said, "The little beastkin just now is obviously a bait." Hexi looked around, "What's the matter with this white mist?" Before Nangongyu could speak, the little golden dragon in the void had already uttered like a cannonball, "Boss, it's the confinement space. My god, it's even a very high-level confinement." And this space is not filled with spiritual power coercion, but beastkin aura. It seems to be jointly cast by high-level beastkins. Chapter 1365, King of the Forest, Confinement Space. Hexi murmured and repeated. Nangongyu, who was about to speak, and Xianmu, who was silent, looked over in surprise. Nangongyu said, Sheer, you know about enclosed space? Because of Xianmu's presence, Hexi couldn't explain it, so she could only vaguely say, I've seen something similar in ancient books before. Nangongyu nodded and said, this is exactly a confinement space, and it is cast by beastkin. Is there a way to crack it? Nangongyu frowned. If we didn't enter the enclosed space, it would be easy to break the array. But now that we are deep inside the array, it will be a little troublesome. Hexi looked at Nangongyu, then at Xianmu. Her face also looked solemn. Xianmu, who had always been reticent, suddenly said coldly, only beastkins above rank 9 can activate the confinement space. Hexi gasped. A rank 7 magical beast is already extremely difficult for me to deal with. A beastkin who is above rank 9 and is much stronger and smarter than the magical beast, what kind of overpowered existence is that? Nangongyu hugged her into his arms and said softly, don't be afraid, as long as I'm here, no one can hurt you. As they were talking, there was a faint clamor and screams in the distance. Everyone be careful, there is an ambush. It's a high-level array. Hexi frowned. She heard Wei Chengyuan's voice. It seemed that not only Huang Medical Branch was caught in this trap, but most likely the entire Miracle Healer Academy. What on earth are the beastkins in the magical beast forest trying to do? Do they want to wipe us out? As soon as Hexi thought of this, Hexi saw a large group of people thrown in by some powerful force. This time it was the students of the Heaven Medical Branch. Compared with the people in Huang Medical Branch, among this group of people, there were 4 people who were injured as badly as Elder Chen's medicinal boy. Every one of them was bloody, missing arms and legs, and even disemboweled. They were dead before their companions could feed them medicinal pills. Wei Chengyuan got up from the ground carrying the dust, looked around, and soon saw Hexi. Shiyu, you're here too. Wei Chengyuan rushed over happily, what kind of place is this? Why are you? Hexi glanced at the group of students who died miserably and frowned, did you meet beastkin cubs and chase them here? Wei Chengyuan's eyes widened, you too. He looked around with a gloomy face, although I don't know the array here, this array is very profound. I can't even find the center and eyes of the array. Is this a trap for us? Who is setting us up? What? This is a trap. The students of Heaven Medical Branch were surprised and angry when they heard Wei Chengyuan's words, who is so vicious to set a trap against our Miracle Healer Academy. Are they tired of living? Hexi squinted, feeling a little surprised, this is the magical beast forest. No human can do whatever they want here, except the king beastkin of this forest. Beastkin? Wei Chengyuan showed a look of shock. Shiyu, you mean, it is a who set the trap for us? How is it possible? Someone immediately retorted, even if those beastkins can transfigure human form, they are still just animals. I admit that their strength is good, but how can they have the brains to set such a trap? Chapter 1366, Explore the Way, yeah. Beastkins are just animals after all. The best they can do is to stay with us as spiritual pets. Hee, where did they get the brains to plot against us? Hexi frowned, looking at this group of people like looking at fools. Wei Chengyuan, Zheng Shouyue, and most of the Huang Medical Branch were lost in thought. They all had solemn expressions. There were always someone who thought they were superior. They felt that beastkins were born stupid and inferior to themselves. They were still ignorant even at this point. In the void, Little Golden Dragon originally planned to come out to see if he could help break the array. Hearing these people's words, he immediately burst into a rage and refused to come out. Shaoli even said with a serious face, "These scumbags are worse than animals. They should all be damned. If it weren't for these greedy and stupid human beings, how could Wu Qi be in such an unknown state now? I wish that all these bad guys would die." Little Egg and Little Dumb Cow, of course, shared the same hatred with Shaoli, and they went along, "Mother, these are bad people. Let's not help them and let them be bitten to death by beastkins." Hexi didn't respond to the little ones, but her expression became more and more solemn. "Even my spiritual pets react like this? What about the beastkin outside?" Time passed by bit by bit. Another half an hour later, Hexi and the others were still trapped in the confinement space. However, people from other branches of Miracle Healer Academy were lured here one after another. An hour later, even Lu Zixi and others from the Pioneer Branch and Deputy Dean Xuyang, who was in charge of protecting them, were drawn into the white mist. A small open space was densely packed with students and elders. On this clearing, except for a small cave, there was not even any place to rest. However, the number of corpses lying on the side had increased to 20. Each of which was beyond recognition. When Deputy Dean Jiang couldn't do anything about the array shrouded in white mist, all the students finally panicked. There was also a trace of panic in Lu Zhixi's eyes. She never thought that she would encounter such danger. However, she calmed down soon and pulled an elder of the Doctors' Association to whisper a few words in his ear. Hearing Lu Zhixi's words, the gray-haired elder's eyes darkened. He jumped up and grabbed a student of the Huang Medical Branch. The student only had Meridian stage cultivation. When he saw a martial artist at the nascent soul stage grabbing him, he froze in place and couldn't move. The gray-haired elder grabbed the student and threw him into the white mist. "Ah!" The student screamed tragically. His eyes were full of despair and fear. The next moment, a purple light flashed, quickly wrapped around the student's body and pulled him back into the array. There were already several wounds on the student's back, each of which was deep enough to see the bones. When he was pulled back, he was in a state of panic and his body kept shaking. When he raised his head and saw the handsome young man in front and the purple vines curling around his body, he couldn't help crying out loud, "Shiyu, Shiyu." "Woo!" Hexi's face was as cold as frost, and he stared coldly at the gray-haired elder. "What are you doing?" The gray-haired elder glanced at the surviving boy displeasedly and snorted coldly, "This array is so profound that we can't dispel in a short time, so we of course need someone to explore the way. Don't you want all of us to be trapped to death?" Chapter 1367, Law of the Jungle. The so-called exploring the way is to let our Huang Medical Branch people die. To be bait? Qian Dazhuang shouted violently. His tiger eyes widened. He was really angry. "Why don't you let the people of your Pioneer Branch to explore the way? Why use our people?" Zheng Shouyue was also full of anger. He glared at the gray-haired elder fiercely. "Elder Qi, you didn't inform me, and you sent my student to die. What do you mean?" The gray-haired elder Qi didn't feel guilty at all when he heard the words. Instead, he said mockingly, "Who made you the weakest? The law of the jungle is the rule of this world. Is it that you want to use the gold core stage elites as bait instead of the Meridian stage trash? Hee, to be able to explore the way for us, it is your honor." The people of the Huang Medical Branch trembled angrily when they heard these words. The people of the other branches all looked at each other in blank dismay. They gradually stepped back. They didn't want to be trapped to death here, and they didn't want to be the bait. It would be the best if people of the Huang Medical Branch could be used as the bait to crack the array. Hexi sneered sinisterly. Her eyes flickered, but her expression became even more aggressive. "Okay. The law of jungle, right? Very good. I remember you are an elder who follows the Earth Medical Branch, right? I will tell you right now. Who dares to touch a person of the Huang Medical Branch, I will throw 10 people from your branch into the white mist. If you don't believe me, you can try it." As soon as the words were finished, purple vines suddenly emerged behind Hexi, swaying in the wind with a menacing aura. The deans of several branches and the elders of the Doctors' Association all turned pale when they heard such a threat. Elder Qi even sternly said, "Shiyu, you are just a trash at the Foundation establishment stage. Dare to threaten us? Do you really think we dare not kill?" Elder Qi hadn't finished his sentence, and he felt two terrifyingly powerful coercions rushing toward his face. Poof! He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and he fell to his knees. Nangong Yu and Xian Mu took 2 steps forward and stood beside Hexi. Nangong Yu's icy eyes swept over all the nascent soul stage martial artists present and said in a deep voice, "Who dares to touch Shiyu? I guarantee you, you will regret living in this world." Xian Mu's words were concise, but the meaning was also very clear: whoever touches Shiyu, die. As soon as this statement came out, everyone present was dumbfounded. The elders at the nascent soul stage were all ashen-faced and wanted to vent their anger, but because they felt the overwhelming strength of these 2 people, they were so aggrieved that they couldn't move. Looking at the purple vines flying behind Siya, people of the other branches all looked fearful. They were worried that Siya would turn her anger on them. The people of the Huang medical branch stood behind Hexi with a smile and proud faces. They used to be the most frustrated and saddest people in Miracle Healer Academy, but now they were the proudest people. Because Shiyu came to Huang Medical Branch, because Shiyu was willing to help them, willing to stand behind them, to protect them from being humiliated and not considering them as sacrifices. They had never been so fortunate to be classmates with Shiyu. In the entire Huang Medical Branch, Tong Bing was the only one with a pale face. Standing alone in the corner and looking at Xian Mu who was guarding Hexi's side, he felt his heart was riddled with jealousy bit by bit. Chapter 1368. This is human. In the confinement space of the White Mist, people from Miracle Healer Academy were making noises endlessly. Lu Zhishi and the people of the Doctors' Association didn't give up. The people of the Huang Medical Branch couldn't be touched, then no one was stopping them from touching the people from other branches. This White Mist array was full of dangers. There were unknown dangers waiting for them. How could they just wait for their own death? However, would anyone be willing to be sacrificed? Of course not. So the entire confinement space became chaotic. Some people cried, some cursed, some went mad, and some were thrown into the White Mist miserably. In the distance, a boy without a palm was leaning on a big tree, watching the scene in the White Mist with great interest. A bloodthirsty smile was shown on his face from time to time. Suddenly, a little purple snake emerged from the ground. In a flash, it slowly transformed into a 12-year-old girl, then she slowly transformed from a girl into a graceful woman with long hair. It turned out that this girl was the amethyst snake Beastkin who had just lured Hexi and the others into the confinement space. She was not a Beastkin Cub at all, but a high-level Beastkin who had cultivated for thousands of years. She had already been transformed into a human. The long-haired woman walked to the side of the young man, leaned her frail and boneless body against him, giggled and said, "Feng Wan, don't you hate them to the bone? What are you waiting for?" The young man glanced at her with an interesting smile. "Look, these are human beings, greedy, stupid, and selfish. Even at such a critical moment of life and death, they only care about their own interests. Hee, I don't even have to do anything, and they are already fighting." The long-haired woman laughed even more when she heard the words. Her undulating chest was alluring. "Feng Wan, you don't just plan to watch them kill each other, do you? How is it possible? Wouldn't that be too easy for them?" Feng Wan gritted his teeth with burning hatred in his eyes. "Just wait for it. It's just an appetizer now. The real hell is waiting for them later." As Feng Wan was talking, a shadow suddenly flashed beside him. A beautiful and elegant girl appeared beside him. The girl's face showed a bit of anxiety, and she said as soon as she saw Feng Wan, "Feng Wan, I can feel the aura of our benefactor among those people. What should we do? We can't repay kindness with enmity." Before the girl could finish her words, the long-haired woman suddenly said in shock, "No, someone among them can break the array. Feng Yuan and the beautiful girl immediately looked over upon hearing this. 7 people walked out of the crowd, walking toward the 7 directions of the white mist. Each of them held a metal magic weapon in their hands. They stood in a specific position, and the magic weapons in their hands also began to accumulate energy. Feng Yuan's face changed drastically. How could it be? They are standing in the direction of the array eyes? How do they know the position of the array eyes? And metal restrains wood. The long-haired woman said anxiously, if the array eyes are destroyed, the array center will definitely be revealed. At that time, the confinement space will also be dispelled. Feng Yuan clenched his hands into fists. His eyes were full of crazy killing and tyranny. He gritted his teeth and said, even if they find the array eyes, so what? As long as I kill them before they break the array, I can trap all these people to death. As he said that, Feng Yuan turned into a hurricane and rushed toward the direction of the white mist. The beautiful girl stretched out her hand anxiously, trying to grab Feng Yuan, but it was in vain. Chapter 1369, The King of Beastkin. With an anxious expression on her face, she shouted, Feng Yuan, among those 7 people are our benefactors, don't hurt them. Please don't hurt them. The long-haired woman was not worried about this, but she said with a little panic, Li Yu, I'm going to inform the king. 2 of these 7 people are very powerful, so strong that I feel afraid just looking at them. Feng Yuan is definitely not their opponent. Oh. Soul-splitting stage. And there are 2 of them. Really interesting. The lazy and magnetic male voice suddenly came from behind the 2. The long-haired woman and Li Yu suddenly turned their heads and knelt in surprise and awe. King, why are you here? Appearing behind the 2 of them was a man with an unparalleled face. At this time, he was still a young man, wearing a dark red robe, which made his face unparalleled. The man's gaze was fixed on the white mist in the distance. There was indifferent cruelty in his voice. Of course, I came to see how miserable the people who tortured my people will end up. However, I discovered an interesting toy by accident. The long-haired woman showed a complimenting smile and said, I was just worrying about Feng Yuan's safety, but now that King is here, they will never be able to destroy this confinement space. The man in a red robe smiled leisurely and did not speak. He looked at the crowd in the white mist as if he were looking at a group of lowly ants. He said casually, let Feng Yuan keep 100 people, my Toad Jade Palace just needs some servants who can entertain me. Just abolish their cultivation. On your command, King. Seeing that the man in a red robe was about to disappear and step into the confinement space, Li Yu, who had been thinking, finally couldn't help saying, King, Li Yu still has something to report. The man in a red robe paused, turned around and looked at her with gentle eyes. Li Yu swallowed and took a deep breath. She seemed to have calmed down, and seemed to be soothed by the king's soft eyes. She finally spoke, King, there are 3 people in that group who saved us. It was them who broke into that dreadful dungeon that night and got us all out. Moreover, I also got Sister Lian Qing's last words. She said that it was a young man who saved her from being humiliated by human beings. That young man was accompanied by a fox beastkin. He broke into the dungeon to save a wolf beastkin. Although she still did not escape the fate of death in the end, she was really grateful to that boy before she died. King. Li Yu raised her head and looked at the man in a red robe with clear eyes. King, I also hate those humans who imprisoned us and hurt us, but this boy and his 2 companions are very, very good people. Can we let them go? The man in a red robe looked slightly dazed. The long-haired woman's eyes were red, and she sobbed softly, Sister Lian Qing, woo. Sister Lian Qing, then she knelt down and said, King, please let Sister Lian Qing's saviors go. The man in the red robe sighed and said, okay. You point out those 3 people, and I will send them out of the confinement space and throw them into a certain place in the magical beast forest. Whether they live or die after that depends entirely on their luck. Li Yu was overjoyed and quickly kowtowed, thank you, Wang. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.